just an approach which is good enough. Slight changes in our foods, in our lifestyles, can go a long way. So today in my talk, I'm just going to show up all the benefits of how vegetarian food. We all know vegetarian is a vast field because there's so many things that vegetarian can choose from. So let me show today what are the food choices that vegetarians can pick when they are diabetics. When we talk about diabetics, we've talked about so much about carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates it's really difficult to understand. But if you just simplify it, when you say diabetes, carbohydrates. So when you simplify it, there's only two types of carbohydrates, which is complex and simple. So if I say simple sugars or simple carbohydrates, it clearly means that I'm talking about sugars or any stuff that has sugar as a main content of it, which can be candies, cakes, juices, anything that is sweet, added sugar in it. Well, these are the simple sugars. When these sugars are consumed, they shoot up your sugars drastically. But managing diabetes is not that difficult when you go for complex carbohydrates. Now, what are these complex carbohydrates? So let's begin with as to the food groups. So what are the food groups? The major, just to simplify everything, just to be very flexible with the choices of food, we say there are 5 food groups. So in that, it's fruits and vegetables, cereals and whole grains, pulses and legumes, milks and dairy products, and fats. So if I just show you down, I have a variety of food in there to show you. So to begin with, we go from the fruits and vegetables. So as you can see here, there's quite a few fruits I've displayed here and vegetables as well. So when we talk about diabetes, many people have questions whether we can eat this, whether we can eat that. But if I say that there's almost every fruit and vegetable that you can consume, it should be all right. Yes, you can almost eat every fruit and vegetable in diabetes, so long as the quantity is measured. So some of the very good foods or vegetables for diabetes are broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, even carrots and beetroots. Some people have questions as to, they are a little bit sweet, so are they going to shoot up the blood sugars? It might not, because the fiber content in carrots and beetroots, they are insoluble fibers, which release slowly in your bloodstream. And that's why your sugar won't spike up dramatically. When we talk about peas and corns, there's another term that I might want to highlight is the glycemic index or the glycemic load. Now, it sounds a bit complicated, but it's quite simple to understand. So these foods, this term is basically means that the content in these foods have a drastic effect on your blood sugars. So when you eat these foods, which are high in the glycemic index, they shoot up your sugars dramatically. In order to control your sugars and keep them in a range of healthy, then you have to just moderately use these ones. Whereas we talk about fruits, so almost all the fruits, apples, oranges, pears, grapes, kiwi fruit, berries, they're all so rich in antioxidants and minerals and vitamins that they actually help for the diabetes. Because you have to cater the inflammation risks in diabetes as well. So when you have consumed these fruits and minerals, they suffice your requirement for vitamins and minerals as well. When we talk about the portion size, I'll come to that later as well. And the other food group, the major food group, which is the whole grains and cereals, a lot of people don't know what sort of cereals they need to consume. We mostly think about, rice, we can't consume rice, wheat, that's not good to consume. It's all fine. But then there are quite a few different foods as well, apart from the typical ones. So our staple foods has always been, like for vegetarians or Asian people, like it's always been wheat, rice, that's about it. There are lots of things that we have recently come up into the terms of healthy grains. So when I talk about that, I say oats, bulgur. So this is actually a broken wheat. I don't know, a lot of people might be aware of it, but it's quite good. It's got so high amount of fiber, such a good source of protein, and equally tasty. When you talk about another such cereal, it's quinoa. I mean, not many people are aware of it, but it's a very good source of protein, and it's a replacement to your rice as well. So not just sometimes people think, oh, replacing rice with brown rice is a good option, which is certainly, but these replacements are even better because they provide you the good amount of protein in them as well. Pulses, another source of protein when we talk about, it's going to be all the beans and legumes that's in our daily diet, that forms our staple daily diet, which is all the beans, like black beans, chickpeas, kidney beans. It's all so healthy because they have good amount of proteins, good amount of fiber. They have the minerals and vitamins that's needed for the good body development. And when you consume this, it's not going to be, sorry, is it stuck? So when you have these on a daily basis, it's not going to affect your blood sugar levels to that extent. It's going to be very healthy option to choose for diabetics. Now let's explain more in detail as to what should an ideal plate of a diabetic need to be. So when I talk about a diabetic plate, I say that half, if that's your plate, half of that plate needs to be vegetables. So it's a medium-sized plate. So when you say half of this plate, yeah, so half of that plate needs to be vegetables. Another half can be divided into two, and that one portion, which is 1/3 of this whole plate, can become your cereal portion. So which is the whole grains and cereals. So that comes from these, from the either can be oats, buckwheat, wheat, brown rice. That's the choice is yours. So when we choose foods, we need to be very smart and choose carefully. Also, the other half of the plate, which is the other 1/3 of the plate, should be the protein portion, which is the legumes and pulses. So which is these beans and legumes and or whatever your daily diet is. If I see a vegetarian meal and on a daily basis, I see it as a chapati, a vegetable, dal and rice. So a lot of people have questions that we can't skip on our daily meal, our daily staple food, and then on that basis, how do we make food choices? So it's very simple. You still continue with whatever you have. You can have your chapati, you can have your rice replaced with brown rice or any of these cereals. You can substitute your dal with lentils, with pulses, with beans, any sort of that. Your vegetable portion remains the same as long as you cook in low fat. And your salad portion still has to remain half of your plate. When I emphasize on the salad portion is because when you consume more salads, it's helpful because the fiber in that salad is going to brush off all the excess amount of fat and sugars from your bloodstream. So this would help you to maintain your blood sugar levels. When consumed on a daily basis, this is going to show a really, really drastic effect on your blood sugars, which is in your favor. So and then there are meal choices as well. So when I say the portion size, I would explain it with the hand. So this size, the middle part of your hand, the palm, that size should be the ideal size for your whole grains and cereal portion. So that should be your carb portion, it could be a bread, which could be a chapati, a medium-sized small chapati. Now, when I say this size, I don't want you to pile 3-4 chapatis in that one. It's just one chapati around that size. It could be a tortilla, it could be buckwheat or anything of that size. When I say vegetable, 2 handfuls, that should be the size of your vegetable portion. And that's without fat. So uncooked portion of your vegetable should be that big amount. That means half of your plate. When I say the protein portion, it should be a fistful. As long as you can squeeze it into the fist, that should be your protein portion. And let's talk about the fat portion. So the fat portion should be just this much. The tip, the very first part of your finger, the tip of your finger, only that big. So if I show you the spoon, so that's the spoon. And if I say that much, so that should be your fat content. So even if you're using oil just for yourself, so just for one person, it's that much you need to use. And if you're cooking for a family of 4, then I suggest 2 tablespoons, which is slightly bigger than this, or maybe 4 teaspoons of this. A family of 4 should be enough. Using milk products, Greek yogurt is best choice. The reason being, when they prepared Greek yogurt, the process itself makes the extra whey that has more carbs eliminated out of it. So that process itself makes it healthier for you. So low-fat Greek yogurt, half a bowl, up to the size of this much, a small bowl size. I recommend this much to be eaten every day by every diabetic person. The reason being, it's got lots of probiotic enzymes, which is healthy for the gut, and which is really helpful for your immune system. So, and milk, when it comes to milk, semi-skimmed milk, brilliant choice. Even better, skimmed milk. But a lot of people don't like the taste of the skimmed milk, but if you can tolerate the taste, really great. Also, when I talk about the fatty foods, I mean, like fried foods, we all know that when you're diabetic, it's mostly a weight loss process as well at the same time while managing diabetes. So if you're on a weight loss program or weight loss therapy, then you might want to cut down on the fried foods, on processed foods, canned or tinned items, rather than go for the natural ones. Even if you're using the lentils or beans, make sure you use the fresh ones rather than using the canned ones, because the only thing with these products is that they got preservatives, they got excess amount of sugar, salts in there, which can affect the blood pressure as well sometimes, which is highly associated with the diabetics. So just to sum it all up, I would say maintaining a good portion size and maintaining the type of food that you choose, choosing it right, and also how frequent do you have the meal. So if you see the frequency, if some of the foods that you think you're unhealthy and you're still having it on a frequent basis, that's where you need to limit that. Instead, if you go for the healthier choices, you can have it more frequently and in a good amount as well. In fact, let me just also show some just for a reference purpose, just for a more detailed view, if people like vegetarians, what is their staple, how does a usual ideal plate look like for the vegetarians? It includes the most daily and basic foods that we all eat on a daily basis. So if you see that, that's an ideal plate. As I said, half of the portion should be a veggie portion, which is a non-starchy vegetable. Other half needs to be protein. Now for vegetarians, this can be your chapati, can be your brown rice, can be your oats or your quinoa or whatever. The other half needs to be your protein portion. So which is the beans, the legumes, the dal, the beans, anything. And when you see on these sides, the fruit, the tea and everything are like free foods. They don't count into calories as long as you don't add sugars into them. Plus milk, which is semi-skimmed, as I mentioned. Good fats and oils. So almonds and walnuts. Yes, a lot of people ask what sort of dry fruits can we have when we're diabetic and how much. So if I say a fistful, again, just a fistful for the entire day. Nuts, almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, any sort of nuts. Just a fistful for the entire day should be more than enough. So that's a picture. If you can relate to that, it's got proteins, it's got your carbs, and it's got your half veggie portion there. Well, when you go unhealthy at times, so if you choose to have a slice of pizza, just balance it out with a big bowl of salad with that. That portion is sufficient. Not more than that should be a pizza slice. And your portion of salad can go higher than this, as long as you can tolerate or eat it. There's some recommendation for meals for people who eat fancy eating different foods in their lunch or dinner. So that's the double bread sandwich there. It's stuffed with vegetables again. That's the portion of salad. That's the portion of beans. That includes your carbs. The sandwich is your carbs portion. And you can include a soup or any non-fatty or non-sugar drink. That's again, this could be your roti or chapati, or could be tortilla, or could be your chilla. Some people like to have those millet foods as well. So that's their portion of this. Salad portion, you can add yogurts, you can add vegetables into it, you can add fruits into it and make it healthier. So that's how colorful the plate is. Can you see? I mean, if the plate is that colorful, how tempting that becomes. And then you're not even compromising on your portion size.